Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to this evening's meeting. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for pastor.
Heavenly Father, we thank you, dear Lord, for just your goodness and mercy in our lives. And we see that with this wonderful town. We thank you, Father, and we ask that you would just bless the roads, that you would bless the small businesses around, that you would just bless the farmers and the rain, but just enough good weather to dry out the crops for harvest. We pray, Father, that you would continue to bless this town and its administration. Bless everyone in this room with a good night's sleep, that they can put their hands to the plow, get to work the next day, and do what you have called them. Bless these people tonight with wisdom. And it's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Okay, the first item before we get to approval of minutes, we had accepted a bid for the surplus equipment sewer truck at the last meeting, and there was a formality that had to be completed in that resolution. So do that first.
Yeah,
Yes, first.
Whereas section 198(12)A of New York State Town Law provides the town board may sell a sewer district surplus vehicle by majority vote subject to a public hearing if the value of the vehicle exceeds $1,000. Whereas the town board has decided to sell a 2003 Chevy 2500 pickup truck, the truck formerly used by the Marieville Sewer District Number 2, the sewer district, that is valued at more than $1,000. And whereas the town board, highway superintendent, and sewer district have determined that the truck has exceeded its useful lifespan, currently cannot pass inspection, and no longer serves a purpose for the town. And whereas a public hearing was held on May 9th, 2024, in compliance with the section 198(12)A of New York State Town Law, and following said public hearing, the truck was put up for sale via sealed bid. And whereas pursuant to a duly published notice in accordance with general municipal law and 103, the town clerk of the town of Joinsburg at its regular town board meeting on June 13th, 2024, publicly opened and read all bid proposals received for the truck sale of the truck. Now therefore it be resolved, the town board of the town of Joinsburg does hereby accept and award the bid of $575 to the highest responsible bidder, Brian Grant. A summary of bids is on file in the office of the town clerk of the town of Joinsburg. Be it further resolved that the supervisor of the town of Joinsburg is hereby authorized to execute a bill of sale and other related transfer documents and deliver same to said bidder in accordance with the terms of the bid as submitted.
Second.
Any discussion? I do want to clarify also, it's coincidence that Councilperson Grant has the same last name. There's no relationship there whatsoever. Clerk, roll please.
Councilmember Grant.
Aye.
Councilmember Locke.
Aye.
Councilmember Platzman.
Aye.
Councilmember Santulli.
Aye.
Supervisor Wenzel.
Aye. Approval of minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular town board meeting that's held on Thursday, June 7th, 2024.
I'll second.
Clerk call the roll please.
Councilmember Santulli.
Aye.
Councilmember Grant.
Aye.
Councilmember Platzman.
Aye.
Councilmember Locke.
Abstain.
Supervisor Wenzel.
Aye.
Motion for the approval of minutes for the special town board meeting on Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024.
Second.
Clerk call the roll please.
Councilmember Locke.
Aye.
Councilmember Platzman.
Aye.
Councilmember Santulli.
Aye.
Councilmember Grant.
Abstain.
Supervisor Wenzel.
Aye. Now clerk's report.
Total local shares remitted $2,576.24. Total non-local revenues $248.76. Total state, county, and local revenues $2,825.
Claims, general fund A, $94,200.26. General OBB, $1,572.99. Highway Fund DA, $425. Highway OBDB, $8,640.84. Lighting District Number 1, $388.67. Lighting District Number 2, $765.55. Lighting District Number 3, $345.39. Planning Board, $930. Sewer District Number 1, $13,276.68. Sewer District Number 2, $10,469.60. Sewer District Number 3, $9,305.89. Trust and Agency, $226.71. Total transfers to AP, $140,547.58.
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk call the roll, please.
Councilmember Grant.
Aye.
Councilmember Santilli.
Aye.
Councilmember Pasino.
Aye.
Councilmember Lux.
Aye.
President Williams.
Aye. Okay, before we go along to the committee reports, we have had some discussions about the potential formation of a district for the ambulance. And we have Attorney Hannigan with us this evening. And we're going to have a discussion with regard to just the specifics, the particulars in regard to that. Now, would you like to make a statement to us first before we ask questions? I'll leave that up to you, how you'd like to do.
Well, Teresa, what works best? I haven't like prepared an opening of this, but I think if you have questions or I can kind of go over whatever you prefer, I'm happy to do.
Okay, unless someone else has something else, is that?
I mean, me personally, I guess I would just like to know the pros and the cons for the
Yeah.
town and the pros and the cons for Dwaynesburg ambulance.
Okay, so at this point, under the way that the current law is written, I think the pros are heavier on the town side than they are on DVAC's side. So whether an ambulance district is formed or not, your arrangement with DVAC would essentially be the same. From the town's perspective, having an ambulance district, I think from the town board's perspective is the most transparent way that you could possibly pay for ambulance service provided in the town. And because it fairly and equally proportionate share for each landowner, the taxpayer in your town breaks out in a line item, how much they are paying based on the taxable value of their property. So it'll change based on the taxable value of everybody's property. Right now, what you pay for ambulance service is just kind of baked into the budget, and somebody could go through and find it and see the total amount, but it's very difficult to tell unless you do advanced arithmetic what each individual taxpayer pays. With an ambulance district, that levy again still counts within your 2% tax cap. It's not spun out like fire is. It's still within your 2% cap, but every taxpayer knows exactly what they're paying for the availability of DVAC, which is basically the subsidy that you provide to this organization now. So from a transparency standpoint, can't beat it. I think that's the real benefit of the town. Yep.
So I want to make sure I understand. So let's say I pay $20 or $200, I know it's, that goes towards
Yeah.
DVAC right now.
Yep.
If we become an ambulance district, is that gonna change for me? Is it gonna become $150 instead? Is it become $250 instead, or is it stay the same
It
$200?
stays exactly, so whatever you're in theory paying now, that's
Is what I'll be
budget
paying.
is what you'll be paying.
It'll just be.
It'll just be
documented.
separately broken out,
Okay.
it'll say Diane Grant, $251.68,
Okay.
Dwaynesburg ambulance district number 1.
Okay,
And it'll change based on the assessed valuation of the property, so higher assessed properties will pay more, lesser will pay less. And it's basically a way to break out the current budget that you provide to DVAC for their availability to the taxpayers. But again, the one downside, the reason it's encompassed within the same body of laws like sewer and water. But it's not, so it still counts within your 2% tax cap. But as far as transparency, you can't beat it. It very clearly identifies what somebody's paying with respect to ambulance. And I think that does help I live in a town where we have an ambulance district, and I think I pay $250 or $280 or something for ambulance. And like, I would pay $400 if they get there in 2 minutes and they promise. I mean, so it helps when you see the sticker shock of we pay however many, and Peter would know the Bethlehem service that we have. We pay a lot of money in our town for county paramedics and our ambulance service there. But when you break it down by the number of taxpayers and everybody's paying $200, it helps, it rationalizes, it makes it feel like, yeah, I'm part of that. And
So it's dependent on what your house is assessed for.
it will depend on how much the town pays for ambulance service, right? Whatever you agree with whatever vendor you choose to provide ambulance service, and the best one here now is VBAC. So whatever that contract is, and then the amount that's actually levied per taxpayer, it kind of happens now, it's just not spelled out for the taxpayer. They have no idea, other than the lump sum that DVAC gets, what they each individually pay. With an ambulance district, the assessor would actually break that out. It would be a separate line item on the tax bill that would identify what portion of that bill is being paid for ambulance.
And that's it. Try, no cons for us, or just that's it?
So con wise, if you ever wanted to get rid of the ambulance district, you would need to dissolve it.
Why would we?
I don't think you would. I'm not aware of any town that's dissolved their ambulance district. If anything, I think the questions that we get more now are places wanting to form them. I do think there's some exciting stuff, and Teresa and I talked about it. There's a perfectly reasonable piece of legislation that was proposed that would allow ambulance districts to be formed just like fire districts. Which would then get that out from underneath the 2% tax cap, allow a separate board of ambulance commissioners to govern that entity. And for whatever reason, it didn't pass. It makes a ton of sense, but didn't pass. Teresa and I had no say in that, obviously, but I think that there was a provision within that bill that would allow existing ambulance districts to opt in and allow themselves to form that way. So I think doing this prepares you for that eventuality. There's too much speed behind that for it to die. I think in the next 5 years that will happen. So it wouldn't hurt you to do that, just form the district now. Again, it doesn't matter of saying, dear town residents, we are as transparent as possible, here's what you pay. From the town standpoint, from DVAC standpoint, it gets the town in continually planning for, budgeting for, and providing ambulance service to the residents. It is on the tax bill reflects your intention to fund ambulance service for the town. It does not obligate you to a specific figure in a given year. It doesn't obligate you to a specific ambulance vendor in a given year. But it demonstrates that, hey, a portion of this money that you're paying for goes to ambulance. It's not all, making town board members rich. And I know you're not, but it specifically spells out, where that portion of money is going, which I think is, from a taxpayer perspective, helpful.
So who constructs the committee of people? Because I'm understanding that there has to be a committee of people that are not a part of either to pass the money through or to.
So, in forming an ambulance district, the town board is empowered to, but does not have to, appoint the board of ambulance commissioners. They would sit more, and that's more akin to like your planning board, where there are appointees that still, that they derive their power from you, not from some independent entity, or they're not a separate authority having jurisdiction in fire districts. So you can appoint 3 if you want, you don't have to, you can just retain that authority
It just be
yourself.
us, it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
anybody else.
If you wanted to appoint 3, generally it's physicians or former paramedics, somebody that have some medical knowledge in the community, or people who are willing to, retirees that want something to do. Generally lighter work, and really their work comes in when there's a fiscal ask from your vendor. And you let that committee, that board of fire commissioners, essentially work that out and then come to you with recommendations. As to what they believe, and allow them to handle the heavy negotiating, so to speak, that come to you and say, hey, we worked this out, we've gone through the numbers, here's what we think. It would lighten your load, I think, with respect to the contracts that you enter into with these guys on an annual or biannual, or at least less than 5 years basis.
So Tim, they would have to be people that are not involved with the vendor. They'd have to be separate.
I think they would need to be separate. I'm trying to think of an instance where they appointed somebody, a commissioner that's been on there. I don't think there's a prohibition to it. I'm just trying to think of an instance where it's happening. There's gonna be so much overlap. I mean, in terms of like, you're gonna defer to the people who the vendor are anyway. I don't think
I don't think.
I don't think it's prohibited. I'm just trying to think of an instance where that's happening.
I'm just wondering if we're not maybe big enough to have to do something, I mean, at the town. I mean, that's my personal thought, but I don't know how anyone else feels about it, like, we really need another group of people. I mean, would we even be able to find another group of people?
There's an issue.
Yeah, I think there's a real issue with that, plus, when you guys have the sewer and water, you essentially, not water, thank God, not water, sewer. When you guys have the sewer districts, you're the sewer district commissioners in effect, and you make all the decisions anyhow. You know, having somebody who, you know, informally makes recommendations or something is fine, but I do think you would wanna have someone who's very well respected in the community, but isn't involved either on the board or on DVAC, so you have sort of a third party, you know, view of things. I don't know if such a person exists here or not, but yeah, so it's up to you. I mean, practically speaking, you'll still negotiate the contract, you'll still have the contract with the vendor. So it doesn't change how you go about anything, you know, like if there's a lot of good reasons if it was a commission district for the town, just like with the commission fire districts, to say, not us, you know, there's somebody who's taking care of this, who's qualified to do this, and they have their own separate system, but it's not set up that way. So I was kind of encouraged when Tim said that the statute, the proposed legislation that didn't get adopted, the bill, had a provision to convert later, because I was concerned if you did something now, it would prevent you from accommodating, you know, what's an anticipated bill. We expect it'll come back next year. We don't know, but we expect. But if that's covered, then, you know, that's not an issue. It is an additional layer of bureaucracy, sort of, but it's if it's you, it's not, you know. So you'd have to have welcome through the steps, like it's a public hearing and.
Yeah, so the way you form it is in the same way, it's again, it's different than sewer and water, but the way you form it is the same way. So you would, the town board would order the preparation of a map plan report. The map's gonna be the town, the report would be, you want ambulance service, we want to provide by this, like, you actually know all of the variables that go into this already. It's not like with water and sewer, you need to figure out, okay, where's it gonna go, does it benefit everybody, we included everybody. It benefit the whole town, map the town, but you have to go through that reality. That would get filed with the town clerk, you'd schedule a public hearing at which anybody could speak in favor of in opposition or whatever. Again, it's not going to increase the tax base or the levy or unless the budgetary needs of your vendor increase. The formation district isn't going to on its own create that or even change the governance structure or the control the town board has over the vendor. But you have a public hearing on it, and then generally speaking, the town board has the public hearing before a meeting where you vote and approve that subject to permissive referendum. Which is legal notice in the paper, wait 30 days, to release it as you got your district.
So we vote, we're
You
not
vote.
putting a vote
Correct.
out for the
It is
town.
not subject to mandatory in-person referendum by the electorate.
Is there any negative anything for the ambulance or for the town moving in that direction?
Not that I'm aware of, no. And in the ones that I've formed, it has only kind of helped facilitate putting ambulance in its own bucket where it should be, I think. And I think the line item on people's tax bills is ugly.
I have a question now, you mentioned legislation that didn't get passed. Was there anything, because I saw something got passed and I thought the county is supposed to be working on an ambulance response plan or something within the counties, is that something that?
So any county in New York State now has the authority to declare municipal operating authority whatever it wants. I think it's talking like the rural tab, like what have you read? Well, what's the?
I was confused because
Okay.
when you referred earlier, I thought that was a shoo-in.
Okay.
But then I saw one that the state passed legislation and basically kicked it down to the counties that they're supposed, I guess, set up some coordination.
I don't think that passed either, right?
Oh, that didn't pass.
No, what you're referring to, is, Part V, I think it was this year. There's part F, part S, and then part B. If I do it all in order, it makes sense in my head because we posted public notices about them at my day job. Part B was not, that component of it was not included in the final budget passed by the legislature to be approved by the governor. What that would have done briefly is would put the onus on the county to ensure that there is a systematic method that provides for a response to all residents within the county by an ambulance service. You know, based on the
That's
needs
one
of that county,
Okay.
where the county of Manhattan, the county of New York, which is Manhattan, will have different needs than the county of Hamilton, which has, you know, like 1/1 millionth population of New York City. So they leave it to the county to be able to set that up. The variance in that isn't that the county would set up a plan that would take over all of the agencies and essentially replace it with a county-run service. But it would put forward a plan that would have to be approved by the state. Excuse me, one of the requirements of that was that the plan cannot push agencies already meeting expectations out of service. It would be there to assist or supplement them, which in this county we've learned is needed in certain areas of the county. You know, right now, Waynesburg is not one of them.
But it didn't pass.
It did not pass. So that means that next year in part double Z or whatever the budget comes out to be next year, you know, there's a chance that may reappear. Because the EMS system advocates, I think is the right way, because one is a not-for-profit. The NYSPAR, New York State Voluntary Ambulance Rescue Association, and which represents organizations like the Waynesburg Ambulance, we're a member of that. Or Onion, which is United New York Ambulance Network, which is commercial agencies. So like Mohawk, Empress, Twin City and Buffalo. Empress is down in Westchester County. The commercial agencies have their own organization where they have different issues. You know, so they collect together and they're their own organization. The two of them together were advocating to the legislature. We got some things that the EMS system needed in the budget and some bills passed later on that we need. That will allow the system to be more efficient. However, we did not get the county component.
That shouldn't have any impact, even if it was, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah, Peter got way into the weeds. It's so that.
That's my danger.
The con.
You know,
Yeah,
we need to pull out the machete to get through the weeds.
Yeah.
oh, no doubt.
Well, they could come up with something entirely new, but not
Absolutely.
forget, yeah, so.
They have another 5 months to plan.
Does anybody have any concerns or questions on?
I was wondering, can you do a flat rate as opposed to based on your assessment? Because a lot of homes, the town hasn't been reassessed since 1984, so you have a bunch of new homes that are paying for a big service that somebody lives in a lower assessed home is gonna get the same service. So I was just wondering if you could have more of a flat rate per household as opposed to.
Can I comment on that?
Sure.
I would take issue with that because when the founders implemented taxation, the premise was that people would be taxed based upon their ability to pay taxes. And the only fair way we really have to do that is through the assessed value system. Because we don't need to point fingers, we can think of different residents within the town. That it wouldn't be fair for one to pay this amount and then another pay the same amount. It would be a big
Well,
disparity.
Maybe
between-
you have a sewer district and you pay that amount based on, everybody pays the same for a single family dwelling. Or
You mean the
an
EDUs?
EDU, right? If you had a two-family, you would pay 2 EDUs,
Wasn't that's predicated essentially on usage though,
right?
as opposed to, this would be something very different.
And if you think about it, sewer and water really should be a head rate per person, right? And we just use the EDUs as a fairly close surrogate for, for the uses, but it's never perfect.
We're
And-
coming out of drainage district too, that we have 10 people that are each paying $100 to maintain that drainage district. That's why I'm just giving you something more to think about, that's all.
In my experience, I have not had an ambulance district have a flat rate per household. It's all derived from the assessed valuation, which I agree with the supervisor is the most accurate way of. Short of nobody paying taxes ever, which should be cool. That's I think the assessed valuation is the driver, and that's the most predictable way for the board to calculate and know. For purposes of like next year's budget or the year after, say, hey, the average assessed valuation is this, the cost of the estimated homeowner is X. And that's information you'll have ready to adopt this model and know that that's something.
One question I have
Yeah.
for Tim, just practically. So we have a contract and the contract specifies that the payments occur, I think, quarterly.
Quarterly, yeah.
Yeah, that's the way we have it. Would it still be that way, or would it be an annual? I mean, does it matter?
So, and that's where, so as far as like your relationship with DVAC right now would remain unchanged in the formation of an ambulance district unless you go and hire somebody else to run ambulance. It's the contract terms would remain the same, the insurance requirements would remain the same, the reporting would remain the same, your control over that district and who provides the service would remain the same. One concern that we had talked about was if for some reason DVAC went out of business, hopefully they never will, but if that happened, would the town have an obligation to provide ambulance service to its residents and either start its own service or whatever? The answer is no. So in future years, you would just not, that line would be zeroed out. You don't have to fund that line. If there was some, again, if the county formed a system, they're not coming here because DVAC's already here, they got other problems to fix. They look at you guys, say this is great, we don't have to worry about them. But if that happened, you could control for any of those contingencies down the line. I mean, you're lucky that, and you guys are lucky that you have a town that recognizes your value and then a local homegrown service that's here. I mean, it's
An aside, which it doesn't impact, but we have a problem with it. If you run across any mechanism where our service is servicing other areas where we can have a reimbursement mechanism, have you seen anything out there? Because you guys are getting a lot of calls out of Dwaynesburg. So that means that the
Yeah.
Dwaynesburg taxpayers are subsidizing the city and surrounding towns.
Yeah, on the flip side, it's the revenue recovery that they get from running those calls actually subsidizes Dwaynesburg too. So if the DVAC ambulance is available and it's not running a call here, or they have the ability to run a call someplace else and still have a unit here, again, I don't know what your Peter knows way more about this stuff than me, but they by running those other calls, you're actually lessening the cost for Dwaynesburg. Now, if you get an issue where if you got multiple units running to Albany for some reason and nobody's here, that's an issue with the town. I see that. We've had in some contracts where the town says we want one rig here, if you're going someplace else, you gotta let us know. Or if for certain levels of cardiac arrest or mass casualty and something like that, go right ahead. But for other ones, we're paying for a year, 1 year. So we've had some that control for that under contract, but generally it is it's a net benefit to this area to allow them to help or fill in elsewhere as needed, because it actually does the revenue recovery lower their budget.
But at some point, I'm sure there's gotta be a breaking point where, percentage wise, where our crews are spending, say, 25% of the time for their calls outside. I mean, is there a point where?
I think the point would be where if your vendor or feedback is unavailable to run calls, do it because they're running elsewhere. If you're not at that point yet, then those other calls are subsidizing the town's service. Then I think it's benefiting the town, because that service is being used, it's billing for the service it's providing, and that's revenue coming in from the outside that is not being, that is going to be passed on to the taxpayers here through lesser asking in future years, so that revenue is still being taken in, but it's not coming from here.
Right, and you're saying we could contract, like if you have 2 crews, you could keep one in Dwaynesburg at all times. That could be in the
You can put
contract.
that in there, yeah.
You gotta really think if you wanna do that though, because you've got the whole concept. And I understand it much better with the fire guys, but everybody's always doing mutual aid and that's, you know, I would.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, maybe Peter or Eric can just give us some statistics, like how much does that happen? It may not be a problem anyhow.
And Peter, you're not obligated to respond to those calls, are you?
No, and we've declined multiple.
So,
If we're already on a heavy duty call. They called us once because they had people entrapped at a fire in the city of Schenectady.
Holy cow.
So we put together 2 crews. But the second one was, okay, y'all come now and fill it out. Turns out they didn't, that was what they were told, Mohawk didn't have an ambulance, they wanted people moved now. So we went cruising down the city, well, on the way there, Mohawk already isn't available, they had 3 other calls come in. We took one to St. Peter's and then we leave, we have volunteers who are listening here. So we've declined many of those mutual aid requests, either because they're not working or we would get through Princetown on the way to the city, or we would get through down to Rotterdam on the way to the city and get turned around. And after the second time they do that, we're no longer available for mutual aid. I'm not gonna spend our fuel budget on diesel money to make round trips to Rotterdam and Princetown and never actually get anywhere. They need to manage their system better in the city. The city, Glenville, Princetown, and Niskuna District 2 and Stamford Heights. Because they have a commercial service, it's not meeting the need.
Another question that I have, recognizing the fact that everyone you see up here is fluid, as are the administrators on DVAC. And currently, we have a good cooperative working agreement. If at some point in the future that were not the case, what potential downfalls would there be for the residents if we were to go to this? Or what advantages, if you could describe, if we wound up with a situation where there was not the cooperation with different personnel?
So that, if that situation occurred, it would be the same as if a district did not exist. So the existence of a district would not alter that calculus whatsoever. You could either contract or continue to contract with DVAC or not. You could contract another vendor if you wanted to. DVAC could say, we don't want to operate here, which would be silly, but we're gonna operate someplace else. And the existence of the district would create the tax entity for the town to be able to provide for money for an ambulance service, provide service, whether it was your own. Again, the town has and retains, just like the county does, its authority to declare municipal CON, start buying ambulances, hiring crews, and running calls as well. Generally, nobody's doing that now because it's expensive, but that you could do that with the district too if you wanted to. Your options are basically open. Again, the primary point of the district is it creates the mechanism, the bucket by which you pay for ambulance service at a rate that this town board decides, and it provides transparency to the public on exactly what each taxpayer is paying for that service.
We can pick whoever.
You can pick wherever you want. You're not wed to one
Still
vendor. Yep.
We still dictate.
Yeah.
The amount that they're gonna be getting.
Yeah.
So still we're working.
Yeah. As far as the actual, it's like if tomorrow, if a district happened tonight and it started tomorrow, we would be in the same position as far as, hey, like, what do you guys need next year? And we're in our budget process, and except it would just be broken out on everybody's tax bill, and people would know what it is. A lot of times the value is realized if DVAC was running, it'd be effective if there was a neighboring jurisdiction, or neighboring town or village where DVAC's running frequently, and they also had a district, then you could, with the 2 assessments, equalize the tax rate and have everybody, regardless of the geographical location, living, paying the same rate for that service. That's really where the district benefit, if you have multi-jurisdictional areas served by one entity. Again, I still think it makes a lot of sense here because this town is already in the practice of funding the availability of ambulance service for its residents, and you've done so generously and consistent with the level that you believe the town needs. So, I think the formation of the district really just, I think it establishes your continued commitment to that, but more importantly, it's to show everybody what they pay for. And I think to the extent that there are any complaints here from the public now about this, I didn't realize it was that low. That it was, when it's broken out about everybody, it really becomes a reasonable cost, considering the value of the service that you have, and that many similarly situated towns, and certainly far more rural towns and villages do not have this type of service.
And one question, just jurisdictionally, so we have a town and then we have the village, the Lansing within the town. I think that's the only village inside the town.
Yeah.
So, do they automatically become part of the district?
No, so that they can opt in if they want to, they have to go through their own process. Is American Gifford still?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so yeah, they would have to, it would carve them out unless they want to be part of it.
Okay. So do. When you say carve them out, so do we collect, you're the tax receiver.
Yeah,
Jen.
currently, the village residents pay for the ambulance out of the general budget.
So they would no longer be paying for it unless they opt.
No, it's not in.
So that's a difference.
But if they're receiving ambulance service, if they're receiving ambulance service from DVAC, I think
They should opt in.
the count is, opt in so that everybody in the village pays the exact same, to everybody.
Which they're already technically.
They're probably doing it now, exactly, you're just including it in like one big levy and asking everybody for a check.
It's just, it's townwide budget,
Yeah.
right, Jen? It only get one. So that is something, Bill, maybe you should talk to Gail about, just make sure that they will opt in.
All right, I have another question. If we were to vote yes for this, how long do we have to make sure that this is done properly and if it's broken? Because I don't know how much work, like, I don't know if we already have that information and it's easy to just, put it in there, or is this gonna be like something that we have to work on? Not me, obviously, but Jen and the assessor, how are they gonna figure that out? How long do they have to do that?
So if from start to finish, assuming there's no opposition, nobody brings a petition and challenges and this referendum, you could do it 90 days from start to finish. Time the board passes resolution authorizing that plan report to be filed, public hearing, and then of that 90 days, 30 of it is waiting for the permissive referendum to expire. So it can happen pretty quickly. And again, it's funding ambulance is not a new concept here, so you're already past the mental hurdle that some places are in order to get to that point. So I think it probably is a quick process here. As far as the MAP plan report, part of that report, you'd have to calculate the anticipated tax impact to the average assessed home in town, or assessed property in town. So you'd have to figure that out, but it would be based on the current financial asset that DVAC has and what you're actually already paying them. So you could probably break that out already, like a house valued at 200,000 would pay tax based on that. And there wouldn't be. In that report there, I don't think that I would anticipate an increase much larger than that even in future years. I think we're through most of the inflationary stuff. So.
So with the map plan report, would that be done by the tax assessor or?
It could be generally the town attorney prepares it, but it's, the map's the town of Waynesburg, it's pretty easy. Google works, so it's not very accepted, but.
I can press that button.
Don't get me clever on that one, but that was, and the report is, and I think Teresa, I think I've sent you some model ones.
Oh, yeah, you gave me all that.
I mean, I think for this time, it'll be very straightforward if you go that route.
As long as Mike does the numbers and not me, I'm fine with that.
I can do something.
So I mean, the inputs for the report now will be, because you're still earlier in both your budget process and theirs, sort of, it starts like September, for these guys, right? So you August, okay, so you factor in, I'd probably use this year's numbers based on timeline right now, unless you get some advanced, info from DVAC as to what their future years need will be.
Okay.
And then other than that, then that gets filed and you have a public hearing based on that map plan report.
Okay, anybody have anything else?
If I have a comment. Yeah, to go back to the question that Councilmember Santulli asked. You know, since January 1st, our first 5 calls of this year, and I may have mentioned this in past meetings, were mutual aid. They came in between midnight and 6 on January 1st. I decided I'm never riding that ship again. But we went to Rotterdam, which had a slew of problems with alcohol right after midnight. And there were 2 the next day for the city. Since then, the leadership team of the Corps has been very attentive to ensuring that anything that we're doing does not leave the town of Dwaynesburg uncovered. To give you an example, I think it was 3 weeks ago, we had a structure fire, or a working fire. The structure only caught on for just a little. We had a working fire over on Youngs Road. It was a Delanson fire. Dwaynesburg ambulance was dispatched on the second round of towns, as is our norm. And we bring, on the average, we bring 2 ambulances to every fire. When we do that, that maximizes our resources at the time. We call in mutual aid to sit in our station and we go into our bunk room and hang out and watch television. And to still maintain the coverage for the town. There is one member of the leadership team who runs our response to every fire. We follow the same process when it comes to an ambulance going out of town. We immediately start looking for who's available if something comes up in town. We are not sending 2 ambulances out of town. We are not, and we will not. We are operating under the same philosophy that we do when Harley Rendezvous was in town. You know, in that we know we recognize there's an influx of additional guests into the county, a larger influx than normal, and we put 2 crews on to make sure that if Rendezvous has a call, that we're still available to service the rest of the town as if nothing was happening at all. So that has been our, you know, with the increase in mutual aid in this particular calendar year, we have taken the approach of we're going to carefully monitor this, you know, and make sure that we continue to serve the town. Since January 1st, when we started the staffing plan that we changed in 2021, if I remember correctly, since we started with hybrid staffing with a contracted vendor, our agreement with the town board was that we will not miss a primary call meaning first out. You know, if a second call comes in while we're out, we don't have the crew, then we turn that over to mutual aid. Since January 1st of this year, again, knocking on the wooden floor like Tim did a few minutes ago, we have not missed a single primary call. We missed a secondary call when we were on a serious primary call, but I think we've only missed 2 of those. In past years, we missed many more. Our missed call percentage for this year for town of Dwaynesburg calls, primary dispatch still sits at 0. And we're on track. Last year we did 472 responses. This year we're on track for 630. Now, some of that includes the mutual aid calls. So we'll be putting some more statistics in reports as they're coming through. And the mutual aid dispatches vary quite heavily. They go in ebbs and flows, just like water in a creek. You know, we may go 2 to 3 weeks with absolutely nothing. Then we may go 4 hours with all sorts of everything. That doesn't mean we're answering all of it. Our primary focus is still here.
Anybody have anything else?
If anybody thinks of anything, let Teresa know. Answer. A lot of times you sleep on it, wake up, keep an open next year, then write it down and ask Teresa.
Thank you. We don't have anything else. We will move on now to the committee reports. First item up is highway. And Bill is not here. I know that he started some work on Van Patten Road. I know there was some chip sealing that was being done there. Also know that there has been The county has started some chip sealing. They've done Twinsburg Churches Road. And we don't have a firm date, but it's an understanding that they'll be paving that. There will be a paving done over the top of that. That question was asked by a few residents. Probably in about 2 weeks. That, of course, is weather contingent. Public safety, Diane, you have anything for us?
Oh, wait. We had ice cream social here yesterday,
Mhm.
which looked very successful. And we did tours of the new development next door, which was pretty cool to see everything that they're gonna be doing there and things that are happening. And there's gonna be another one July 24th,
Yes.
5 to 8. So if anybody wants to come and get some ice cream and say hi to everybody and take a tour and see what's going on, that's the next day.
Very good, thank you. Parks Group, we have the summer program, summer children's program in full swing. That started this week. I stopped in yesterday. The turnout is a little lower than it was last year. Maybe that's because of the way the weather's been this year. I want to find out, and we can talk about it during the week. I know we had a sandwich board that was set up at the point in prior years. And that was damaged last year. I don't know if it's still workable or not. We'll have to look at that and see what we can do to advertise that at the point. The other thing is that we were contacted by a gentleman who had obtained funding from the county to provide entertainment with a band group, different bands. And they hope to be able to perform at Schaefer Park. And they don't have any specific dates set up yet, but as soon as we know what those dates are, underneath the gazebo over at Schaefer Park, there'll be music in the evenings. I believe the time that they had set forth was 6:30 to 8. So as soon as we know about that, certainly we'll put it on social media, put it on the town website, and spread the word around so people can take advantage of that. It'll be no charge at all to go in and watch the performers that come in. I believe the first group that's scheduled tentatively for later this month is a jazz group. That is all I have on parks. Andy, do you have anything for us on sewer?
Only a couple things. The pumps we ordered a few months ago that we approved have all arrived, so now we have spare. All essential parts we have spares of just in case something breaks. We don't have to wait for them to come in on order. The Lansing treatment plant, the new EQ building has a communication failure, but Smith Control's coming out tomorrow to fix it. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
We're still, still trying to figure out what they're gonna do about the radiator problem on the Coal Road pump station. But
What was the problem? I didn't catch it.
it has coolant leak. Yeah, it has a coolant leak, but I guess they're running the generator as they need it, and it has an automatic shut off, so nothing will get damaged if it overheats. They're aware of it, working on a solution.
Okay. Mike, do you have anything on the tape?
Well, we had an internet blip, we had a domain issue. Wars, those expire so often. I guess it caught us off guard, but our vendor was able to track down and rectify that, so we got our email and backup.
Yes, and a big thank you to all those involved that worked on that to get that straightened out.
Take a pat on the back.
Give Jen a round of applause.
Yes, thank you, and great that our vendor, that really not the vendor's responsibility, the vendor stepped up to the plate, thank you for contacting, engaging them so we can get that resolved. Okay, anything else? Anybody have anything before we go on to the business meeting? Okay.
Motion to appoint Jameson Factu. Is that how you say his last name?
Facto.
Facto as the new dog control officer. Whereas Jamison Facto has applied for the position of dog control officer for the town of Twinsburg, whereas Mr. Facto is qualified for the position based upon his interview and his resume. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby appoints Jameson Facto as the dog control officer of the town of Twinsburg at the rate of $700 per month to take over the position from the dog control officer who has resigned.
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk call the roll, please.
Councilmember Grant.
Aye.
Councilmember Lux.
Aye.
Councilmember Cosner.
Aye.
Councilmember Santilli.
Aye.
Supervisor Wenzel.
Aye.
Motion to authorize payment to Fritz Construction in the amount of $87,048, whereas General Municipal Law 103 and the Town of Dwaynesburg procurement policy authorize the Town of Dwaynesburg Town Board to seek competitive bids for certain improvements to the Town Hall, quotations the Town Hall addition. And whereas the town desired to seek bids for the Town Hall addition as described in detail in the request for bids, the quotation RFP. Documents prepared by town staff and Whiteman, Osterman, and Hannah LLP. And whereas the town duly advertised the RFP on the town website, on the town bulletin board, and in the Daily Gazette. And whereas the town board awarded the bid to Fritz Construction LLC, quotations the contractor by resolution number 65-2024. And whereas the contractor has submitted an invoice in the amount of $87,048 dated July 6, 2024 for the town board review for services provided for the period ending July 6, 2024, quotations contractor invoice number 2. Now therefore be resolved, the town board approves contractor invoice number 2 and authorizes the town supervisor to pay the invoice to the contractor in the amount of $87,048.
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk call the roll, please.
Councilmember Lux.
Aye.
Councilmember Cosner.
Aye.
Councilmember Santilli.
Aye.
Councilmember Grant.
Aye.
Supervisor Wenzel.
Abstain.
Okay, motion to authorize Delaware Engineering, DPC, to provide services. Whereas the town of Waynesburg Town Board has commenced the construction of the present town hall building located at 5853 Western Turnpike, Waynesburg, New York, 12056, the town hall addition. And whereas the town board desires to retain Delaware Engineering, DPC, Delaware, for professional services in connection with the construction of a new septic system at the town hall in order to accommodate the town hall addition demands and meet all legal requirements of the project. Whereas Delaware submitted a proposal for the project and the fee for professional services in connection with the project shall be $7,500. Whereas the town board intends that the project is to be funded in whole or in part using the American Rescue Plan Act, coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, will be subject to the applicable provisions and requirements of the U.S. Department of Treasury coronavirus local fiscal recovery fund award terms and conditions, which is OMB approved 1505-0271. On the assurances of compliance with civil rights requirement, is OMB approved 1505-0271. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board authorizes the town supervisor to engage Delaware to provide professional services in connection with the project and the payment to Delaware $7,500 for such professional services.
I'll second.
A discussion on this, the upgrade, replacement of this septic system is not resultant as a result of the addition. It's resultant as part of finding out there were deficiencies with it. So the deficiencies were there before. The connecting of the discharge from the addition brought those problems to light. So it will be done correctly and the new system should last a long time and function well. Clerk call the roll, please.
Councilmember Santilli.
Aye.
Councilmember Grant.
Aye.
Councilmember Cosner.
Aye.
Councilmember Lux.
Aye.
Supervisor Wenzel.
Aye.
Motion to authorize payment to Bill Dunn of $2,600 for the installation of the water treatment system at Van Patten Mill Park. Whereas the town board, in conjunction with the town staff, has determined that the installation of a water treatment system, the system at Van Patten Mill Park is necessary and advisable. And whereas the cost of the installation of the system is under the $20,000 threshold for procurement under Public Works equipment contracts. And whereas the town board desires to appoint Bill Dunn, quote, Dunn as a qualified town vendor, and Dunn has agreed to install the system for $2,600. Whereas the town board reviewed the pricing proposed by Dunn and finds it acceptable. Whereas the town board intends that the installation of the system is to be funded in whole or in part using American Rescue Plan Act, coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, and will be subject to the applicable provisions and requirements of the U.S. Department of the Treasury Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, award terms and conditions. OMB approved 1505-0271 and assurances of compliance with civil rights requirements. OMB approved 1505-0271. Now therefore be resolved, the town board hereby appoints Bill Dunn as a qualified town vendor and authorizes the payment to Dunn of $2,600 for the installation of the system.
Second.
Discussion on this, the potable water at Van Patten Mill Park has been problematical back and forth for an extended period of time. This system will ensure that we'll have potable water without any interruption. Clerk call roll, please.
Councilmember Jeff Brown.
Aye.
Councilmember Lux.
Aye.
Councilmember Santori.
Aye.
Councilmember Grant.
Aye.
Supervisor Winston.
Aye. Okay. Anybody have anything before we go on the privilege of the floor?
Well, does anybody want to speak in privilege of the floor?
That was my next question.
Really?
What? Yeah,
Okay,
they inspire me. Just a thought to consider when scheduling the events at Schaefer Park. The village hosts a music event every Thursday during the summer at the Village Green and the gazebo there. So if there's a way to not conflict as much with them and scheduling events for Schaefer Park, that might be helpful.
That has been addressed, and
Okay.
I neglected to bring that up. Tuesday evening is the proposed night. They are aware of that. So as soon as we get a confirmation letter from them, email from them, we have dates, we'll let everybody know. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
No problem. I don't go to the village when the music is wildly outside my taste, but you know, who knows, jazz might be up.
They will have different types of music for each of their events. They plan 4 events. That's what. Okay, anybody have anything else before?
Listen until that happens. Okay.
Okay, I guess we have just one thing left.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Clerk call roll, please.
Councilmember Lux.
Aye.
Councilmember Santori.
Aye.
Councilmember Cosmo.
Aye.
Councilmember Grant.
Aye.
Supervisor Winston.
Aye. Thank you very much.
the-
Oh, yeah.